Hello and welcome to Good or Bad. So if an 80s horror movie is successful, naturally there would be a sequel. Well, actually there's a whole lot of sequels, but let's forget them for now and just see if A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, is as good as the original.
Freddy's Revenge.
No, wait, I want to shoot that down right now because I know it's not as good as the original. But it might be good in its own way, so let's find out. The movie opens with a bus. Buses are great. And the bus drives down the road a bit and then people get off. Wow! On the bus we find our main character, Jesse, who is played by Mark Patton. But never mind about that, more people are getting off the bus. My god, I'm glued to my seat, I must know who gets off the bus next! Oh my god, isn't this exciting? The majority of passengers are getting off the bus. And you know how many are left on? 3 passengers are left on the bus. I really hope someone sees this video and gets the message out to the world of how exciting an intro to a film can be when it's just about a bus and people getting off of it. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. This time, it's sleep-inducing. After that shocking development, we get a pulse-raising, adrenaline-pumping scene of Jesse trying to open a window but failing. Well, I suppose that to throw something in to add a little diversity to the 2 minutes 30 seconds of normal everyday bus driving. Thankfully, something does start to happen. The bus speeds up, goes off-road and gets stranded on 2 pillars of rocks, and then it turns out it was all a dream. We find out that Jesse is new to Elm Street. His family just moved into 1428 Elm Street, the same house that Nancy lived in, and since then he has been having nightmares. He meets his friend Lisa, who's played by Kim Myers, and they drive to school, where we see the usual school sports stuff, but I shall not bore you with the riveting details, except that I should show something since I went through the fact that they drove to school, so... There you go, he gets hit by a baseball. Later that night, Jesse has a nightmare where he has an encounter with Freddy, but unlike everything we have seen before, Freddy doesn't want to kill him. He wants to possess him.
You've got the body. I've got the brain.
But I can't help but wonder why, because the movie goes through the usual fear spreading, so Freddy is strong enough to invade someone's dreams. So I don't know why he wants to possess Jesse instead. Well, I suppose I have to give the movie credit for doing something different, even if it is for the sake of just doing something different. Now we get treated to Jesse falling asleep in class, and the movie misleads us by making us think Freddy is going to show up. But in actuality, all that really happens is someone played a prank on him, which leads to a quick scare, which, to be fair, is at least refreshing. Later on, back at home, Jesse's father tells him to go tidy his room, so he does.
How do you like that, Dad?
What? Okay, I guess he wants to clean with style. Not quite sure what style. What did I just witness? After he gets embarrassingly walked in on by his mother and Lisa, they start sorting his room out properly, where Lisa finds Nancy's diary, which details the nightmares she had about Freddy, and Jesse can't help but notice the similarities between Nancy's nightmares and his. We cut to another of Jesse's nightmares where Freddy tells him to try the glove on, and then we again cut to the following day at school where he finds out about the party that Lisa is throwing. And then after a short run outside, it's suddenly hours later and we are back at Jesse's home. What is with these movies? They have more time jumps than H.G. Wells' The Time Machine! Well anyway, they are all complaining about the heat. In fact, that seems to be a reoccurring theme in this movie. Everyone in that house complains about the heat. Is it the movie's subtle way of saying we're turning up the heat for this sequel? And then the bird goes crazy and spontaneously combusts. Well, of course it does, why wouldn't it? And for the bazillionth time, we jump to later that night, where Jesse suddenly wakes up and finds himself walking into Don's place, which is a gay leather club, where he runs into his gym coach and then suddenly he is running laps back at school. And no, it's not the following morning, because there was no time jump, well except for them travelling to the school, unless they can teleport, which I don't think is the case here. So I'm just going to run through that again because something doesn't quite add up. Point A, he's at a gay bar and runs into his gym coach. Point B, he's running laps at school. How do those two events connect? What brought him from point A to point B? I don't know, so I'm going to leave you to ponder on that. Then sporting equipment starts flying out at the coach. And I'm going to skip the rest of the build up to the death because, well, I want this video to have the standard YouTube age rating. But long story short, Jesse turns into Freddy and kills him. The police bring Jesse home because they found him walking down the street without his clothes on, so his father thinks he's doing drugs. The next day, well, technically the day after because I'm skipping a day because all that happened was he found out that the coach died, because all he remembers is a vague dream of what happened, so he didn't actually know. Jesse confronts his father about how they got the house so cheap, which was because it was a suicide home. Apparently Nancy's mother killed herself after Nancy lost her mind when she saw Glenn die at the end of the first movie. Therefore they got the house for a steal. But more importantly, that's what actually happened to Nancy, because I did say in the review for the first movie the ending was a little convoluted. Lisa knows Jesse is having Krueger-related nightmares, so she found out in Nancy's diary where the boiler room that Freddy conducted his crimes from actually is. So she takes Jesse there to see if he feels anything. You might be thinking the fact that she thinks there's a psychic connection is stupid, which it is, but at least she's not like everyone else and just points at him and goes, "You're insane!" or "You're on drugs." But he doesn't feel anything. Then time jump! It's night again and Jesse wakes up and finds himself standing over his little sister while wearing Freddy's glove. Then reality hits him and he backs off. It's party time! And Jesse is getting friendly with Lisa until Freddy begins to emerge. So he runs off specifically to his friend Brady. He asks Brady to do two things. One, watch him while he sleeps, and two, if he tries to leave, stop him. You know, wouldn't it be funny if he got up, turned into Freddy and killed Brady? That happens, doesn't it? So after Freddy kills Brady, Jesse runs off to Lisa. Now wouldn't it be funny if he turned into Freddy while he was with Lisa? That happens as well, doesn't it? Indeed it does happen, although Freddy doesn't kill Lisa. I think it's because of Jesse's feelings towards Lisa stopping Freddy from being able to kill her. Either that or he just couldn't be bothered. Instead he jumps out into the pool party and starts killing, then leaves. That brings up another point. Clearly Krueger has no objections about killing anyone, so if he is strong enough to do his usual dream invasion technique, why would he take the possession approach, where he is limited in what he can do depending on the possessed person's willpower? Lisa figures out that Freddy would have gone back to his boiler room, so she goes there to confront him. Freddy's about to kill her, but she says,
"I love you, Jesse!"
which gives Jesse the strength to exercise Freddy. Freddy starts to melt away and they all live happily ever after. But then the bus strikes again and it ends where it all began.
Jesse, it's okay. It's all over.
Okay, they pull the same move as the first film. They defeat Freddy and then just before the credits roll, Freddy strikes again. But here it makes a little more sense and it's kind of funny as well. Because yes, they did free Jesse from being possessed by Freddy, but they didn't destroy Freddy like Nancy did. So what I find funny is the possibility that they went through all that to free Jesse, but in the end Freddy was still around in their nightmares as he was in the beginning. So it's time to answer the question, was A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 as good as the first film? No, it certainly wasn't. The characters were fleshed out better, but it lacked what made the original so unique, which was Freddy stalking his victims in their dreams. In this he just possesses someone and appears in reality, with the only difference between him and a normal human serial killer being the powers he has. But honestly, without the sleep deprivation, the fear of dreaming, it just didn't work. I respect that they tried something different from the original. I mean, no one wants a rehash, but unfortunately, it still fell flat. But I will say this for the film, or more so the cast. Despite the fact that the script was stupid and they didn't have much to work with, the acting was still pretty damn good. There are three things that really bug me about this movie. The first is, where the hell is Freddy's glove? I know he gave the glove to Jesse, but when Freddy does emerge, it's just his normal hand with the blades coming out of his fingertips. The second is, how did Freddy possess Jesse? There didn't seem to be a method of possession. He just came up to Jesse in his dreams and said, "I'm gonna possess you." And that was it, and as weird as it was in Freddy vs Jason, at least it had that to signify some form of possession. Now the third thing is quite simple. In the first movie, Freddy looked awesome. In the second movie, he looks like a melted candle.
Think you're so smart, huh, bitch?
Okay, this movie may not have been as good as the first movie, but was it still good? I don't think it was, for the reasons I have already mentioned, plus the fact that Freddy Krueger just wasn't scary. See you next time.